Most people know it by many names: pot, grass, the devil's lettuce, cannabis, marijuana. The plant has gained quite a stigma over the years, especially after the Reefer Madness campaign in the 30s. Because of this stigma and propaganda, I understand that there is quite a bit of skepticism toward the federal legalization of this plant, which is to be expected. I also acknowledge that there can be negative consequences to using marijuana. However, my goal today is to illustrate the many benefits that cannabis encompasses and how these pros outweigh the cons. Marijuana has multiple benefits across many societal spheres, including medical, economic, and legal. I am passionate about this topic because I have seen the real-life benefits this plant has had towards several people in my life, both physically and mentally, and I understand the help that this herb can offer. Today, we will look at arguments on both sides of this national debate to fully understand why I believe that complete federal legalization is important. My first argument is from a medical perspective. To begin, we will look at how marijuana interacts with the body. Now, within our own bodies, we have something called the endocannabinoid system. Now, in an article published by Harvard Health Publishing, Dr. Peter Grinspoon illustrates that this endocannabinoid system regulates and controls many of the most important bodily functions, including inflammatory and immune responses, emotional regulation, pain control, and eating. The significance of this is important. In this system, there are cannabinoid receptors, and these receptors are more prevalent than any other type of receptors in our brains. To stimulate these receptors and allow the system to function, our body produces chemicals called cannabinoids. Now, these cannabinoids are structurally similar to the cannabinoids that are found in marijuana. Therefore, marijuana contains chemicals that are very similar to the ones that we possess in our own bodies. Now, in an effort of transparency, I'm not going to pretend that marijuana is perfect. There can be negative side effects to consuming marijuana. It has been found, for example, that cannabis intoxication can increase disinhibition, impair psychomotor function, and impair verbal memory, per an article posted on PubMed Central. However, they concluded that these negative side effects are inconsistent, which means that it's important to remember that every body is different. What has been proven, without a doubt, in multiple cases, is that marijuana can and does aid a variety of patients in different ways. According to a different article written by Dr. Grinspoon, the most common use for medicinal marijuana is pain management. Now, while it is not strong enough for severe pain, it has been proven effective in alleviating chronic pain that many people deal with on a daily basis. Now, in addition to this, marijuana has been found to be far safer and far less addictive than the opioids and painkillers that doctors prescribe to patients with chronic pain. It is also impossible to overdose on marijuana, as opposed to the overdose risks of these pills. Cannabis has also been proven effective in aiding patients who deal with a multitude of other conditions, including glaucoma, PTSD, nausea and bowel conditions, seizure disorders in adults and children, and even drug and alcohol addiction. Now, the medical benefits of this plant, to me, are the most important reasons why cannabis should be legalized. However, there are other important arguments that need to be examined. My first argument mainly talked about why marijuana should be medically legalized. So let's now focus more on recreational legalization. Specifically, how all-encompassing legalization has bolstered the economy of the states that have already embraced it. Now, there certainly have been concerns from multiple people about the negative economic impact of legalization. These include debating how to tax marijuana and the fear that tax revenue from cannabis sales will not be enough to overcome the long-term fiscal costs. However, California, which has legalized marijuana both recreationally and medically, has racked up over $1.1 billion since the plant was legalized, per an article on Investopedia. Washington and Colorado have had recreational use the longest, and this article also states that from 2014 to 2023, Washington brought in a staggering $4.1 billion in tax revenue. And in the same time frame, Colorado collected $2.38 billion. Additionally, the marijuana business has created numerous jobs across the country. As of February 2024, there were nearly 15,000 cannabis dispensaries in the U.S., with that number growing in the last 2 years. This has led to the creation of an estimated 93,000 jobs in county. Furthermore, the American Civil Liberties Union estimates that marijuana enforcement on a federal level costs the country almost $3.6 billion a year. Now that's a lot of money that could be used to target more heinous crimes that deserve legal punishment. Now this point leads into my final argument. Cannabis and the law has been proven to be a particularly complicated subject. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation reported that their violent crime rate actually rose for the 5th consecutive year after the plant was legalized. This raised serious concerns about public safety, so much so that the former governor of Colorado actually discussed the possibility of reinstating the marijuana ban. However, the former Denver chief of police, in an article on the Denverite website, stated that he largely blames this spike in murders and other violent crimes on guns and gangs, as well as rapid urban development that the police force cannot keep up with. In contrast, Washington has reported double-digit decreases in crime rates after recreational legalization, according to an article on ScienceDirect.com, as have multiple other states, leading to safer environments for their citizens to live in. Across the nation, 53% of all drug arrests were for cannabis-related offenses in 2010, and 80% of those were merely for cannabis possession. Those numbers, of course, significantly decreased, correlating with ongoing legalization among states. Furthermore, there is evidence to support racial biases among cannabis arrests, specifically against the Black community. According to another article published on PubMed Central, cannabis possession arrests of white people remain steady at 192 per 100,000 citizens, while the number of arrests of Black people rose from 537 to 716 per 100,000 citizens in 8 years. Now, these statistics help prove that the Black community has been targeted more than the white community for cannabis possession arrests, and legalization has helped to decrease the general racial criminal prejudice exhibited toward the Black community. Now, in short, legalizing cannabis can and has helped solve multiple problems in the criminal sphere. Today, I have illustrated to you why I think that marijuana can be beneficial and why it should be completely federally legalized. Here I've provided a comprehensive list of all the websites I've used to conduct my research in case any of you want to research this for yourself. As we discussed, this plant hosts a multitude of benefits, including medical, economic, and legal. It is important to remember that every person is different, and every body is different. The reality of people experiencing some negative side effects does not negate the validity of the positive impacts marijuana can have for so many people on multiple levels. With proper education and transparency, cannabis can be responsibly used in a positive way and therefore should be legally accessible to any adult who chooses to consume it. Thank you for your time.